Namaskar. Welcome to this session. We are considering the Kaivalya path, and we did consider the first sutra, Janmoshadhi mantra tapas samadhija siddhaya. The various modes of attaining miraculous powers, supernormal powers, superhuman powers, incredible powers, awesome powers. And in the Vibhuti Pada, we considered various siddhis, which I have repeatedly said there are two kinds of siddhis, namely Gnana Rupa Siddhi and Kriya Rupa Siddhi. One is the siddhi which is mentioning incredible knowledge power, knowledge process, knowledge realm of yogi. The other one is Kriya Rupa Siddhi, that is yogi's power, miraculous powers to perform incredible, awesome feats. So we did consider about all those siddhis which came in the Vibhuti Pada. Nearly 35 siddhis came our way, and we understood the siddhis and many things. While understanding the siddhis, we understood certain metaphysical aspects as well. So, one of the great siddhis was not discussed in the Vibhuti Pada. It is incredible, awesome siddhi and awe-inspiring siddhi. The siddhi is called Jatyantaranam. It's a siddhi that miracle that it is easy to conceive, construe, understand and believe. And Patanjali is commencing to mention such a kind of siddhi in the 4th chapter. Now, this is called, because the siddhis, we have seen that they don't violate or don't transgress the natural laws. No siddhi, as I said sometimes, is supernatural siddhi. All siddhis are natural siddhis. The nature itself is omnipotent, and therefore none of the yogi siddhis are supernatural. They can't transgress the natural powers which are there in the prakriti, in the creative cause. It is the omnipotent cause. So, that siddhi is now being mentioned, and we will understand why it is being mentioned after we look into the following some sutras after this sutra. So this siddhi is Janmantaranam Siddhi. Now what is this Janmantaranam? Now this is something that is not supernatural, however, but it is definitely far different than all the siddhis so far considered in Vibhuti Pada. Because they were already incredible siddhis, awe-inspiring siddhis, intriguing siddhis, difficult to conceive, construe, understand, believe. But this is altogether different siddhi of different grade and level. The point is Janmantaranam. Or Yonyantaranam. See, usually it's a very natural thing to happen that we do transmigrate from one life form to another life form. There is no miracle in it. In this life, we are human beings. In next life, we can be anything between mosquito, bedbug, worm, to eagle, to anaconda, to elephant, to god, to rakshasa, to infernal being. So we do transmigrate in 8.4 billion classes of life forms. And there is no miracle. What we were in our previous life and what we have become in this life is not a miracle. What we are in this life and what we will become in the next life is not a miracle. It's a karma phala. And the karma siddhanta that we discussed in the second chapter told us about it, that such things can happen and they are out of karma phala, karma vipaka. Although incredible, it is yet not a miracle. Because that happens to each one of us. Every one of us will be going to the karma vipakam, the karma phalam, and therefore we will end up being anything due to our deeds. So, usually in our case, it is called Janmantaranam and Yodnyantaranam. But now the siddhi that is being mentioned is Jatyantaranam. So we must become familiar with these terms. Janmantaranam. It is Janma Antaranam. It is what is going to happen in next life. What were we in previous lives? Previous life. What are we in this life? What are we going to be in the next life? And what are we going to be in prospective lives? So that is called Janmantaranam, Yonyantaranam. And this is natural phenomenon to every one of us. It doesn't happen exceptionally to few. But however, Patanjali is now going to speak about a phenomenon which is called Jatyantaranam. Jati means a class of life. The class of life itself is going to change in given life. Unlike the normal condition of changing the class of life in the next life or following lives due to transmigrations. But this is a siddhi without transmigration, without intervening death. Because the death is the important thing or important point for us to transmigrate. We won't transmigrate unless there is a death. So today we are human beings. Due to our karmas, we will transmigrate to another life form, either celestial or terrestrial or infernal, human or subhuman or superhuman. But that's not a miracle. It is happening to each one of us. But now Patanjali is going to mention about a siddhi which is Jatyantaranam. So what is this Jatyantaranam? Let's try to understand it by an example which has come in Yoga Bhashya. Vyasa himself has described in his course of text. There are certain instances, such as one of the instances of Nandishwara. Nandishwara, the Nandi which you see in a shrine of Shiva, any Shivalaya, Shiva Devalaya, any shrine of Shiva where you see that there is a lingam in the shrine of Shiva, in the sanctum sanctorum, you find it is Shiva Lingam, and that is the Shiva temple. But in front of Shiva temple, in front of the very gate of the Shiva temple, the door of the sanctum sanctorum, we see that there is Nandi. Nandi is a bull. And we all first prostrate to the bull and then proceed to the shrine of Shiva Lingam. So we all know that there is a deity in the form of Nandishwara. And all the Shiva temples will have a Nandi in front of it. As a matter of fact, without taking darshan of the Nandishwara, Nandi, we don't take darshan of the Shiva Linga. And that is why he is right in front of the doorway of the shrine, of the sanctum sanctorum of the shrine. So what is this Nandishwara? What is this form of deity? It's a deity. Nandi is a deity. It's not just a bull. It's a deity. Now, what is this Nandishwara? Nandishwara was a mortal, a human being. He was performing austerities and upasana. He was a tapasvi and upasaka. What kind of upasana he did? It was Shivopasana. He was a mortal human being who was a devotee of Shiva and was engaged in Shiva worship. So it was tapasya on his part and also upasana on his part. It was an upasaka. So he was a Shivopasaka. That means a mortal like you and me. But his upasana, his bhakti, his devotion was so profound, so profused, that he got blessed. And as he got blessed, the blessing was that he would take form of Nandi, that is bull. And a mortal like you and me, human being like you and me, with 2 legs and 2 arms and head and trunk, in human form he did the upasana. He was upasaka in the human form. But when his upasana was fructified, he got blessed by Shiva and he took the form of Nandi. And he became a celestial deity. Who was a mortal human being became a celestial deity. He transformed into the form of bull. He did not have to die and transmigrate to a bull form, but he got transformed into Nandi form. There was no intervening death. As an upasaka, he became Nandi. Now, this phenomenon can be explained. He was in human form. So human form slowly faded out and started transforming and fading out and fading in. And what faded in was Nandi form. So human form itself transformed into Nandi form. Not that it was Janmantaranam or Yonyantaranam. Not that he was born of a cow. He became a bull. Otherwise, the bull usually is born of a cow. But he was not born as a bull. He became bull by fading in, fading out process. Like today it can be explained, as we are all familiar with the concept of computer graphics. So, like in computer graphics, one form will fade out and another form will fade in. So, it similarly happened, that is, human form faded out and Nandi form faded in. Now, is this not miraculous? The blessing of Shiva transformed him from being a human being, from being perhaps a child or a teenager, transformed into Nandi form. So, humanness faded out and simultaneously Nandi form faded in, exactly as it happens in computer graphics. So this was because of his immense utkata upasana, Shivopasana. And he attained deityship, because Nandi is a deity, it's not just a bull. Nandi is a deity. So he attained what is called as Devatvam. From Manushatvam, what faded in was Devatvam, immortality. Because the human form is mortal. Human form ultimately has to meet the death. But then he became, attained the Devatvam, attained the Devatva, the deityship, and therefore in that sense became immortal. So Manavatvam transformed into Devatvam. So what happened here is called jatyantara. But suppose Manavatvam becomes Devatvam because of a huge baggage of virtue, punya sanchaya, and then somebody, such a virtuous person, dies, so intervening death is required, and then he would be going to celestial plane, heavenly plane, godly plane. So human being can become a god, but then that is because with the help of yonyantaranam or janmantaranam. It's a janmantaranam, it is another life. Human life ends with the death and godly life begins in heavens. So that's, therefore it is called Janmantaranam, and then Yonyantaranam. He goes from Manava Yoni to Deva Yoni or another Yoni. So that's why it is called also Yonyantaranam. Yoni means womb. While here, in case of Nandishwara, the humanness got transformed into deityship, Devatvam. So it was not a case like somebody going to heavens, transmigrating to heavens and appearing in heavens in a godly form. So this is incredible parinama. While it is a different kind of parinama in case of Janmantaranam or Yonyantaranam or transmigration. Of course it is also parinama, but totally a different form of parinama. Like for instance, a person, because of virtues, is going to go to celestial plane. He will end his mortal plane here. He will leave back the mortal coils, and his Sukshma Shariram would transmigrate to heavens. It would go to heavens and manifest in the heavens to be experiencing celestial experiences for allotted period of time. And then he would again come back to human plane. Kshene punye martyalokam vishanti, Bhagavad Gita. So that's also parinama, that's also change and transformation, but understand the kind of transformation in transmigration. While here Nandi did not transmigrate. Nandi transformed without transmigration. So this is transformation without transmigration is something that to be note should be taken off. We should take note of this. That there is not transformation by transmigration, but transformation without transmigration, which was the case of Nandishwara. And therefore, it is called jatyantaranam. The jati is changing. From Manava Jati, Nandishwara got Deva Jati. And that is why it's called jatyantara parinama. So Patanjali is speaking about this jatyantara parinama in the second sutra of Kaivalya Pad. The another instance that Vyasa has quoted is a descending one. The story which comes in our Puranas, the story of Nahusha, a king. A king went to heavens. So he had a tenure of heavenship for some time. And therefore he transmigrated to heavenly plane and got Devatvam. So he became a deity, celestial deity there. But then what happened? There came an occasion where he was cursed by Saptarshis. So he was cursed by Saptarshis because of his arrogance, because he had attained the deityship, godliness, godship. So very chance for him to have arrogance, etc. So once he was carried on palanquin by Saptarshis. And then he was in a haste and hurry because he was supposed to attend to a dance recital by Apsaras. So he became very impatient to be reaching the place of the auditorium where the dance was to be performed by damsels. And he thought that he is being delayed because the palanquin was not being carried properly. So he yelled at one of the rishis, and he yelled at the rishi saying that, why don't you hasten? Why are you going so slow? Now this resulted into that rishi cursing him. The rishi cursed him. And he cursed him to become an infernal being. And Nahusha, who was in godly form, godly manifestation, diseaseless, decayless, deathless manifestation, he was cursed to become Sarpakara. He became a snake. And he reeled down to infernal plane from heavens. So the godly form of Nahusha attained a serpentine form to be reeled down or to be reeling down to the infernal plane, and he had a fall from there, and he got the snake form. He got the snake form from God form. So this is regressive jatyantaranam. So because of intense sins, it can happen that you don't have to transmigrate, but you transform. And because of virtues, you have ascending transformation without intervening death or without the transmigrative movement, you can be transformed. The point is, what is to be noted is that there are two kinds of transformations. One is transmigratory transformation, which is because of the karma phala, karma vipaka, karma siddhanta. The other one is again due to karma, either virtuous or vicious. Virtuous will give you ascendance, like it happened to Nandishwara. So without transmigration, he would attain a godlyhood, celestialhood, celestialship. Or because of regressive mode, because of intense sin, it could be like Nahusha's case, from being celestial in form, that is amaratvam, ajaratvam, etc., etc., he immediately became a snake and reeled down to infernal plane. So Nahusha went to Sarpa Yoni without transmigration. By fading out, fading in process, he became went to Sarpa Yoni, while Nandishwara, with fading in and fading out process, without transmigration, went to Devatvam, attained Devatvam. And now this is indeed a miraculous thing. So, such things do happen. And we know some great beings are Trilokya Sanchari. Trilokyam means three planes: mortal plane, immortal plane, and infernal plane. So there are some who have this Trilokya Sanchara. They move in all the three planes, and therefore they immediately get the transformation. With the human brain and senses, one will not be able to have celestial form, because there are celestial objects, celestial things, and therefore the senses have to also transform. Intellect and mind has to transform to be going from plane of mortality to plane of immortality of the heavenly lives. So we all know about Narada Muni, who was Trilokya Sanchari. So his powers transformed to the loka that he visited. The point is, you just can't go in the form that you are. Like simple thing, that if you want to go to, as an astronaut, you want to go to another planet, you have to wear the astronaut suit. And today we take oxygen there, because oxygen is not available on those planes. You will have to take oxygen cylinder, then you will have to also have some astronaut suit, etc., to be going to Moon and Mars, etc. Because the atmosphere there is totally different. Narada would be going to all the planes of Trilokya without being wearing an astronaut suit, or without carrying something which is essential for him. So we have lots of instances of jatyantara parinama. So the point is, this jatyantaranam is to be understood by fading out and fading in process. And that is what is the second sutra mentioning. The second sutra is Jatyantar Parinamah Prakritya Purat. So now we are coming to this sutra. I just gave enunciation to this sutra with an example for us to understand what is jatyantaranam at a very primary level. So that's why we took the example of Nandishwara and Nahusha. So the sutra is jatyantar paranamaha prakrutya purat. Now in our case it becomes janmantaranam, which is the activity of karma siddhanta, karma phala vipaka. So we get janmantaranam, yonyantaranam with intervening death. Without death we won't be changing our form. While here, without the death, without transmigratory movements, the transformations take place in a very live form. That is called jatyantaranam. Antaranam means changeover. Changeover in jati. Jati means the life form. So jatyantarana paranamaha. While in our case it is janmantar paranamaha, yonyantar paranamaha, it is because of death. So that's not a miracle. We do change from manifestation to manifestation. We go from, travel from yoni to yoni, life form to life form. There is no miracle. The karma siddhanta does it. The karma devatas do that, and they mobilize us from one form of life to another form of life with intervening death. But here that is not the case, so it is called jatyantara paranamaha. And then how does it happen? Prakritya purat. Prakriti, creative cause. Apura. Apura means inundation of potentials of Prakriti. It does happen. So now we are turning to Sutra, but let's understand the prelude which I just now mentioned about yonyantar and janmantaranam. So we know the concept of vrutyantara. Vrutyantara, the vrutti changing. And in one life our vrutti can change. In one life we can be good beings and then become bad beings, or we can be bad beings and then become good beings. So that is a change in our nature. For change of our nature, we don't necessarily have to take a rebirth. So we know vrutyantaram, vrutyantaranam, our vrutti changing, our general nature changing. So we say the human vrittis change, and that is also visible to us. Like when we go through different stages of life, our vrittis change. What was our vritti when we were infants? What was our vritti when we were children? What was our vritti when we are teenagers? Then the vritti changes while we are in the stage of youth, and then adulthood, and then old age, and then perhaps decrepancy, very, very old age, ripe old age. So our vrittis do change. Certain vrittis don't change, but certain vrittis do change just because we are changing over our stage of life. Balyavastha to Vruddhavastha, Vardhakyavastha, there are so many stages which come in our life. Balyavastha means infanthood, from infanthood to ripe, aged old age. So we have different stages coming in our life, and we have some changes in our behavior, in our nature. So that's called Vrutyantara. One of the marvelous example here is of Valmiki. It is said that Valmiki was a burglar, roadside robber called Valya Koli. And Valya Koli in one life became Valmiki, a revered saint, sage, rishi. So you can imagine the Vrutyantara of that burglar, robber, unscrupulous robber who became later Mahakavi, who penned down Srimad Valmiki Ramayanam. So all of us know the story of Valmiki. So his vritti, by being a robber, became a poet, a mystic poet, a rishi. He became Rishitulya. So he became Valmiki Rishi. So that's the Vrutyantara. So that's why just a while ago said that good people can become bad people because of circumstances and because of whatever reasons. Bad people can become good people in course of life. But we don't see jatyantara. We can see vrutyantara. So I want you to understand here the concepts such as janmantar, yonyantar, vrutyantar. And now what is being introduced in the sutra is jatyantara. Now we don't see jatyantara, but we can see vrutyantara to enormous extent, incredible extent. We don't see a man walking on the streets, and while he is walking, slowly becoming an elephant or horse, or becoming an eagle and flying. We don't see that. So the jatyantaranam cannot be a natural or usual happening. So we don't see a man becoming elephant becoming human, etc., etc. And therefore janmantaranam, what is possible for janmantaranam is not possible for jatyantaranam. We don't see a dog transforming into cat and vice versa. We don't see a cat becoming a horse and horse becoming a lion. So the fading in, fading out process of the form of jatyantara is not a usual thing, and it doesn't happen. It doesn't at all happen. But it does happen here. Now how does it happen? It is because the abundance of potentials in the creative cause called prakriti. Prakriti is the creative cause, material cause of the universe and universal things. So prakriti has that enormous potentials that it can effect such changes, and therefore such changes are not supernatural. The human form becoming Nandishwara is not supernatural. Or Nahusha becoming serpent is not supernatural. It's all powers of the nature. Nisarga, nature, has all those powers, because the nature itself is material cause of snake, celestial beings, human beings, any form of being, any form of manifestation in the universe. It is all prakriti. So prakriti is material cause for all universal phenomenon, and that is the primordial cause, and it has enormous supply. There is no dearth of supply. There is no dearth of potentials. Nothing is impossible to Prakriti. It has enormous supplies of all potentials. Unlike it happens in mundane worldly situation, there is short supply. You'll have to wait. You'll have to wait for a day or week or month. There is no supply. Short supply. Or sometimes there is a flood. Now that is not the case of Prakriti. There is never a case of short supply in Prakriti. So Prakriti is capable of transforming anything into anything. And that is why the second part of the sutra, Prakritya Purat, means it speaks about the Apura of Prakriti. Apura means supply. An abundance of supply, any amount of supply, unlimited supply. No limitation at all whatsoever. That's why the word Apura has come in the sutra. Prakritya Purat. So the supply of the Prakriti is abundant anywhere, any time, any situation. There is never ever dearth, shortfall or short supply, which happens in mundane mortal worlds. That there is short supply, something is not available, will not be available for some time. But Prakriti is omnipresent. There is no part of the universe which is free from Prakriti or absence of Prakriti. The Prakriti has presence everywhere, anywhere, all the time, any time, and not just presence, abundance of it. Unlimited supply of it. It will be abundantly available anywhere, anytime. Now, this is unheard of for we people on the terrestrial plane, because we often experience this, that there is shortfall, there is short supply, there is dearth, there is absence, not available, not available, not available. But the Prakriti doesn't put this board not available. As a matter of fact, the board is plentifully available, unlimited availability. And that is why this word Prakritya Purat is something that should be looked into and should be understood. So Prakriti has all its potentials in Vipula Pramanam. Vipula means immeasurable. Pramanam means measure. It is available anywhere, anytime, in any amount. So that's a unique thing about the Prakriti. The raw material of all these forms, say elephant, horse, eagle, human being, that Prakriti is a cosmos. It is everywhere available. And therefore, anything can manifest out of Prakriti. Basically, it is omnipotent. It is of all forms, absolutely all forms. Nowhere Prakriti has inability, incapacity of whatsoever kind. So, that is what is this sutra telling us. Jatyantara paranamaha Prakritya Purat. So, because of that, instantaneously, whatever happened to Nandishwara did happen. There was no need to wait for some time. Please wait, boy. I will get the celestial things for you and you will become celestial. It's all transformations, like we are familiar with the computer graphics. The line work goes on changing. And then the forms are changed. Horse can become lion, lion can become elephant, elephant can become bull. So in computer graphics, this is all very, very possible. So similarly, it can happen. So certain powers will fade out, dwindle, and certain powers will get enhanced, suitable to the jatyantaram. So that is what this sutra is mentioning, and that is what this siddhi is. Jatyantar parinama prakrutya apurat. So in the light of this, we can also understand how the yonyantaram and janmantaram takes place because of the karma siddhanta, because of the operation of karma siddhanta. So our vasanas change. Today we are human beings. In next life we are going to become horse. So we will get the ashva vasana, ashva deham, ashva samarthyam. We will become horse in next life. This life we are human beings. Next life we have to become elephant. So the hasti vasana, hasti rupam will come, and there is no problem when it is a transmigration. Therefore, I recall a theorem of Bhagavad Gita, Yamati Sagati. So whatever is your last moment mind, thought of mind, you will get that in the next life. So whatever is your vasana on the point of death, that will manifest in the vasana of the next birth. So that's how the janmantaram, yonyantaram takes place. So let's try to take up that aspect, which is because of the karma siddhanta, karma phala, karma vipaka, the vasana, the havoc of vasana. But that we will do in the next session. Enough for the time being. Namaskar all of you.